Are all great golf swings the same? Well, at first glance, you may say no. Take somebody like Scotty Scheffler, put them up against Rory McIlroy, you're going to see two very different looking golf swings. But when it comes to the best players in the world, they all do the same things well. They can drive it down the middle, they take a divot after the ball, and they can hit it a long way. So today we're taking a deep dive, looking at what the best players in the world do well. I think you're going to find that their swings are almost all identical when it comes to these basic things. And if you can do these things, you are going to play some amazing golf. We're going to start off by looking at one of the most fundamental things in the golf swing. Check out these ball strikers. Do you see that? Can you find the pattern? They're all striking the ground in the same spot after the ball. They're all hitting ball first and taking a divot after. This goes for every player in the field at the Masters this past week. What you're seeing here is many different looking golf swings, but the same outcome. You're seeing a ball divot strike. This is something that's fundamental to playing golf well at a high level. If you want to play great golf, you need to learn how to control your contact point. The best players consistently demonstrate this, even if they have a different grip, different stance, different posture, different setup, different takeaway. They all demonstrate that they can hit the ball first and take a divot after every single time. So looking at something that's fundamental to playing great golf, contact with the ball is the number one priority. Now we're going to take a look at what these players do to strike the ball well. And you're going to see that it comes down to a few things. The first thing that's most obvious is that their head stays in place throughout the entire swing. So you're not seeing a whole lot of shifting or swaying off the ball. If anything, they're thinking about keeping their head as steady as possible, because any movement of the head off the ball moves the contact point on the ground. Where that club strikes the ground will change if their head moves. So if you place a pin on all these players' heads and you just look at all of these swings repeating here, across 114 players, you're seeing almost zero head movement. The only thing you'll see is perhaps a slight turn of the head to the right, away from the target, because as the body turns and as you're turning your shoulders, a natural movement is for your head to turn a little bit. As far as the position of the head goes, if you placed a pin on top of their hat, you're going to see almost zero head movement. And the best ball strikers in the world all demonstrate this point. Another thing that you're going to see is a straight lead arm. So if you're a right-handed player, the lead arm would be your left arm. This straight left arm also helps with striking the ball solid. If you were to keep the arm straight throughout the entire swing and not shift your head, you're going to have the club strike the ground in the same spot every time. I've shown this a ton on my channel. There's a lot of videos demonstrating this concept in my channel. And then lastly, something that becomes more apparent as you keep your head in place, as you keep your lead arm straight, this requires you to do another thing, and that is keeping the weight forward. So as you watch these players swing, you'll notice that the front knee moves more down. And this front knee moving more down shows you that there's more weight building up on the front side. You also see that the trail knee is moving up. So for this to happen, the hips are turning on a tilted angle. And when they turn their hips on a tilted angle, this causes the knees to work almost like a balancing act or a balance. So you see the front knee moving down and the trail knee moving up. And when you put that front knee down, you are going to have more weight on the front side. It's simply a natural move. If you want the body to work correctly, if you want to get the most power out of the swing along with great contact, keeping the weight forward is essential for having one contact point because it helps you keep your head in place. It helps the body turn more without any work, so that leads to you keeping the lead arm straight without having to force it or feel like you're forcing that arm to straight. So what you get is a very effortless feeling swing that's producing the most consistent contact. And among the best players here, you're seeing no shift off the ball, a head that's in place, a lead arm that's staying straight. And for all of this to happen, it goes back to one central element. And that key element is the weight staying forward all the way throughout the swing. When I start shifting, watch what happens to this contact point. Shift, there's my contact point. Shift, there's my contact point. Shift, there's my contact point. There's no consistency with where the club comes into the ground. In fact, if I shift and I stay back, I'm always going to hit behind the ball. Now, this is a comforting thing for one reason, because it gives us certainty in a game of craziness. When I keep my weight forward, just staying centered like this, there's my contact point. Always. And then when I try and do this in the swing, there is a really good chance of me taking ball first and a divot after. Another key that's fundamental to striking the ball well, if you want to hit the ball first, take a divot after, especially with taking a divot, you watch these players' front shoulder. So for the right-hand golfer, this is the left shoulder. And as they're swinging back, you get this theme of the front shoulder moving more down. This is a huge concept demonstrated by the best golfers throughout all of history. Because we're playing golf on a tilted angle, because our spine is tilted more down towards the ground, this requires us to keep that tilt throughout the swing. If we were to somehow lose that tilt, if the spine leveled out at some point in the swing, your club would not be able to strike the ground. Or you'll find that you have to do some psycho moves in your swing to get the club to strike the ground. And the way a lot of golfers would do this, if they level out, they start to find different ways to hit the ground. And that comes in the form of over the top. Maybe they dip their shoulders back down towards the ball. Maybe they move their head. So you see a whole lot of swing compensations start to happen when the tilt is lost in the swing. As you can see with these players, these great ball strikers, they're keeping the same spine tilt throughout the entire swing. This enables them to swing the club on the same path, and it also allows them to strike the ground consistently. If you ever wonder why someone would come out of posture in the swing, well, that's a swing compensation. And if you're ever coming out of posture, meaning you're losing that tilt, then you're going to have contact issues. But for these ball strikers, you notice throughout the entire swing, they're not standing up through impact. They're not losing that relationship. Because if they had a swing where they were losing their relationship, that would lead to a lot of different swing paths, meaning different types of ball flights. They couldn't be consistent. It doesn't matter what club in the bag. And instead, when they keep their tilt to the ground, this allows them to swing the club on the same path, back and through. So it's very simple. And there's an added benefit to tilting. I think about tilting and weight forward as being best friends. So for you to keep your relationship to the ball, you've got to tilt. As I tilt, it helps me keep my head in place in the golf swing. And when I'm keeping my head in place and tilting, my body's turning and I'm keeping the weight forward. So there's a lot of talk about all these moves you need to make in the swing. The swing can be made as complicated as you want it to be. If I think about the simplest way to make a golf swing, I would keep my head in place, prevent it from moving up or down or side to side. I keep my head in place and I would focus on tilting. And the rest of the swing is going to happen, just like you're seeing with these players here. Keep your head in place, you tilt. What will happen is the weight stays forward, your hips begin turning, the lead arm can stay straight then. While you might think there's a lot going on there, there isn't as much as you think's going on. A lot of the moves in the golf swing are reactionary moves. So as that front shoulder's moving down, as that head's staying in place, both those moves combine and create a beautiful turn while keeping the relationship to the ball. Both those moves come together with that turn to keep that lead arm straight. And those things then end up with your weight staying forward. You feel the weight staying more forward as you begin to tilt. And so their body weight, if I was just looking at weight forward, this is something that's rather controversial in the golf world. Not sure why, because it's proven time and time again that the best players demonstrate this point. If I was to take a chainsaw and cut them right through the middle of their body at the top of backswing, or right down a post, what direction would their body fall? Well, based on where that front knee is, their top of backswing position, if I cut them down, they would fall towards the target. Because of this tilt, because of this weight being forward, because their hips are turning, there is simply more body weight on that front leg. We're talking about body weight. If I had a scale at the top of the backswing, it doesn't matter who it is in this photo. If I had a scale, you would find that the scale would tip in favor of the target side if I cut them right down the middle. If you put your hips in that exact position, you're going to feel more weight on the front side. And it's a beautiful thing because it's necessary for playing great golf. So the swing reaction to front shoulder going down, head staying in place, creates and helps the weight to stay forward, allows you to turn, keep the lead arm straight. These are fundamental things required for great contact. You do those things, you will strike the ball first, you will take a divot after the ball.
For me, it's going back to that day, those few days I played, shooting 61, 58 on the weekend, and going, all right, what did I do there that was so good? And how do I keep doing it? And just looking back, reflecting on that, and making sure I'm feeling that same motion that I've settled in on. And the motion is really just tilt the shoulders and swing more inside out. That's literally all it is.
So as he swings back, he's continuing to tilt.
The other thing I'm working on really is mainly setup at the moment. Just trying to feel like I'm a little bit more pressed into my left leg, 60-40, which I think is always good for, good iron, good striking with the irons. And then I'm trying to feel like I'm staying on the ball. So just working on my kind of like my tilts rather than feeling like I'm turning off it and being sort of pulled off the ball into my right side. So instead of turn to the top, tilt to the top. That's what we're working on.
So we've looked at how the pros can have consistent contact with the ball and what makes them great ball strikers. The next thing we're going to look at is how they add power to the swing. And this is essential because understanding how you create power in the golf swing, there's many different philosophies out there. What I'm going to share with you today is a little bit more unique, but it applies to all the golfers on TV and it's applied to every great golfer in history. The way power is created in the golf swing is done on a circle. When the golfer tilts over the golf ball, you may have seen traces of swings, and you see these traced circles. So the club is traveling on an inward angle, on an arc. And in the golf swing, if you want to maximize your power potential, you need to maximize the power of these arcs. Examples of arcs include turning the shoulders, turning the hips, straightening your trail leg. I'm going to show you how every single player that's ever played great golf straightens their trail leg, turns their hips, and swings the club inward. What you're not going to see is the common notion of swinging the club straight back. You're not going to see shifting the weight because these things are rather inefficient. You can't play straight line in a game that's rotational. And that's a huge lesson I learned when I started seeing their swings for what they really are, and that is these key moves here. The first key move we're going to look at is the path of the hands traveling inward. Allows the body to turn more. If you thought about swinging the club straight back, the issue there is that it disconnects the arms from the body, and then you're forced to lift your arms to the top of the backswing. Now this leads to inconsistencies because now your arms, hands, club can all travel in different directions, different paths back to the ball. That requires a lot of timing. I'd rather not time up the golf swing. And PGA Tour pros know this too because they don't want a swing that they have to consistently time up and maintain all day long. They have lives. They want to have fun just like us. Swings that repeat take an inward direction with the hands because this allows them not only to access more power, get more turn, it's more body friendly, so you can play golf all day long. It's stress-free on the body. And it enables them to keep the club face square longer during the swing. so they're hitting their target more frequently. This concept, I can't talk about it enough because it's that big. And as you're watching all these players here, you're seeing this upward-inward component. You're seeing, because of this, the hips are getting pulled around. So I talked about tilt earlier. Keeping your head in place and tilting, that leads to turn. Swinging the club inward with the shoulder moving down, getting that tilt, that's also going to accelerate more of the turn in the golf swing, encourage a bigger turn. And so these players are thinking rotational. They're not thinking in a straight line. Because if they thought in a straight line, their bodies wouldn't be able to work like this. Their bodies wouldn't be able to swing the club as fast either. It's a lot more work to swing the club in a straight line. That brings me to the next point of lifting the arms. Are these players lifting their arms? Lifting the arms in the golf swing has been something that people considered to be a huge power source. But as you can see, some of the players here that I'm showing you on the screen hit the ball an enormous distance with an easy-looking golf swing, and they're barely swinging back about 3/4 of the way. Some examples that come to mind are these players here. Now take a look at their average drives, average driving distance. For the amount of swing that they're putting in, they're not really taking the club back that far. And what you find is the golfers with higher arms is not necessarily a requirement for hitting the ball far. What's more of a requirement for hitting far is swinging your shoulders back further, is turning your hips more. So we're maximizing the power of a circle instead of swinging the club on a straight line. Now, another thing that comes to mind, a lot of modern swing moves, as they're often called, involve a restriction type of swing where you keep the trail leg flexed and then you swing the club more straight back and up, where you try to swing the club more vertical. Well, this has proven over time to cause injury to the lower back, knees, and hips. And perhaps the best example in recent times is Will Zalatoris, who missed an entire season because of his back getting shredded by his swing. Now he's back and he's made some changes to his swing to help have a more body-friendly motion. And what he had to say and what he revealed was rather interesting.
I was able to, pop off 125 mile an hour club head speed, but I'd be hitting it everywhere. But, now it's just so much more efficient, and it's way more rotary or more horizontal in turn, way less vertical, which makes it easier on my back. And so, like I said, it's just different. And it's just kind of a level of maturity that, I don't, when you get out on tour, you want to work hard, you want to work as hard as you possibly can. And I would keep doing it day in, day out, and wouldn't give myself the time to recover. But I think now it's, instead of working harder, it's working smarter.
So as you can see here, Will Zalatoris is talking about getting more horizontal in the swing, which means more rotational instead of being vertical. And what he's learned, this is a big breakthrough for him, is that he doesn't have to work so hard. Yeah, he could go around trying to maximize clubhead speed all day long, but he can hit the ball plenty far, hit it down the middle, and ease the stress on his body by swinging in a body-friendly manner. What's it worth to you if you're swinging ridiculously fast and you're shredding your body? If you can't play golf, you're not going to get a paycheck. So that's one of the most eye-opening things about creating power in the swing, is you don't have to get vertical to hit far. You'll do better if you swing diagonal, meaning inward and upward at the same rate. Next thing we're looking at is the trail leg. So it's often been talked about how you keep the trail leg flexed and you feel a coil in your trail side, your rear side. And this coil is a powerful feeling. And it really is a powerful feeling because you feel all this tension. It feels like you're going to give the ball something. But in reality, this is restricting your hips, restricting your knees, and restricting your lower back. So you're not able to turn as far. And if you do, you're going to be creating a ton of stress on your body. And you see a lot of players, when they have to go to the gym to learn how to turn farther over a flexed knee, a flexed restricted body. And that's just them fighting their bodies. So what you're seeing with the best ball strikers in the world is a change in knee flex. And they're all doing this to varying degrees. And so the more turn you get, the more your hips can turn, the more that trail leg is going to straighten. So the shoulders powering the hips, powering that trail leg to straighten. And when you do this move, it feels so easy on the body. So as far as adding power in the golf swing is concerned, you can see how it's not a requirement to get vertical to hit the ball far. And every player to varying degrees swings the club inward. And every player to varying degrees is straightening the trail leg. This tells us that they are taking advantage of a rotational golf swing and not a vertical golf swing as often promoted today. If you want to maximize your distance on the golf course and swing with the least amount of effort, getting rotational in your swing is one of the best things you can do to play better golf.
I'm going to take my weight shift out of the swing. I'm just going to make a full send swing right now. I didn't even shift my weight, and that's the longest ball I've ever hit with this club. Why is that important? Because shifting leads to contact issues. So if you start shifting around, and many of you know this on the channel if you've been following the channel, you know any little bit of sway, any bit of head movement in any direction is going to change that contact point on the ground. Now, why would we do that? Just cut out the shift, replace it with the rotation, and life is going to be dandy.
That's right, life's going to be pretty dandy after you put these moves into your swing. So we've looked at 114 of the best golfers in the world, and what we found is every single one of them is making these key moves in their swing to play great golf. It's non-negotiable. It's because they need these moves to play great golf. It's not that they're all trying to swing the same way. It's that these are the things you have to do to play great golf. You need to strike the ball consistently well. You need to hit the ball far enough to play the course and shoot a low enough score. You need to hit the ball straight. And for these players, they're doing this week after week, so they need a swing that they can count on. You need a swing that you can count on. And so I ask you this question again. Do all great ball strikers, do all professional golfers swing the same way? And the answer is clear. The great ones, as we have just seen, all swing the same way. While they've got some unique quirks, they're all doing the same things to strike the ball well. If you want to learn a simplified, body-friendly approach to the golf swing, check out my online golf school, SagutoGolf. It's a complete, structured, online golf swing training program. Walks you step by step how to build a body-friendly, powerful, consistent golf swing that's going to show up week after week. Life is far too short to play bad golf. So start playing the best golf of your life with SagutoGolf. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you in a future episode.